So, good afternoon, everyone. I have the honor of introducing a friend and someone who is a very brave individual. I want to remind everyone that we will have some Q&A at the end. Just raise your hand if you have a question. I think there's some cards out there you can fill out the question on. I'm honored to introduce our Louisiana Commissioner of Insurance, Tim Temple. Tim is a native of DeRidder, just up the road. He was elected Commissioner of Insurance in 2023. Tim worked in the insurance sector for over 2 decades, and he's dedicated to leveraging his extensive industry experience to shape a regulatory and statutory environment that not only ensures competitiveness, but also enhances the attractiveness of Louisiana's insurance market to benefit our residents. After Commissioner Temple speaks, we might need a drink. And so the cocktail hour is just above us on the 3rd floor, and it starts at 5 o'clock. But ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Commissioner of Insurance Tim Temple. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Look, if you've ever run for office, one of the things they tell you that's really important is your position on the ballot. What's even more important is your position on the agenda, speaking agenda. And so I know I'm the one between you and the drinks upstairs. So, and Nick said, end on a really high note. Let's talk about insurance. So thanks. I'll try and figure out how to do that magic trick. No, listen, before I start, I want to say, Mayor, thank you for putting this on, all of you for being in attendance and participating in this, and really leading what I think is the state charge on addressing resiliency. It's really important, and I think that we as state leaders in Baton Rouge and around the rest of the state need to really look to what you and your city officials and your local officials are doing to help build resiliency. It's y'all have heard it. I mean, y'all have been talking about this all day, but it is vitally important that the state address resiliency. We're on a body of water right here. Half our state lives within, a stone's throw of the water, and so we've got to be aware and cognizant of that insurance companies and reinsurance companies look at that. I'm fully committed to working with you as y'all go through this resiliency process, but also committed to telling the story that's taking place to the insurance companies and the reinsurance companies, because they need to know what's taking place. Because if you want the credit for building stronger, more resilient homes and businesses and infrastructure, they need to know about it. And I can tell you that there is a little bit of lag on what Louisiana does and what the insurance and reinsurance market is made aware of. But we've started bridging that gap. We started having conversations with London and Bermuda and the reinsurance markets about what is taking place. And Barrow in the back, I'm going to say this for your benefit, when we bring the reinsurance markets down to South Louisiana to see what's taking place, which we've had conversations about that, we're going to make sure and include Lake Charles in that, because we need to include that. Here we are today, 4-year anniversary of Hurricane Laura. This time 4 years ago, I was in DeRidder. My mother, whose home was there right before the hurricane, we were trying to get her to come over to Baton Rouge, where I live, and she's like, "No, I'm just going to stay. It's fine. We're in DeRidder. It's not going to be a problem." And I said, "Well, okay. Well, I'm going to come over there." And she says, "Oh no, you shouldn't do that. That could be dangerous." I'm like, wait a second, it's safe for you to stay there, but it's dangerous for me to come over. So, like a good son, I told her, okay, that sounds good. And I got my car and drove over and called her when I, walked up to, or knocked on the door and said, here I am. But I don't ever want to go through that experience again, and that was in DeRidder, 45, 50 miles north of here. So I can't say I know what those of you that were here experienced, but I can imagine a little bit of it. And look, Hurricane Laura, it started a bad trend there for 12 months and 2 days. And think about that. 12 months, 2 days, we had 4 hurricanes. Laura, Delta, Zeta, and Ida. Laura, 150-mile-an-hour winds, tied for second most powerful storm that our state's recorded. 800,000 claims between those 4 storms. 800,000 claims at a population of just a little over 4 million. The industry paid $24 billion in losses on $2 billion collected. And for you business folks in the room, run your business that way, right? You can't do it for long. But that's the industry, that's the business insurance is in. They take that risk. They know what they're getting into. But some of them didn't. 800,000 claims, 24 billion paid, 12 companies went insolvent. 12 companies took your premiums, and when you needed them to pay a claim, they weren't there. Another dozen, 2 dozen, actually almost 30 companies said, "We're done. We can't do this anymore. We don't want to work in Louisiana. We don't want to put our capital at risk in Louisiana." And they either formally withdrew from the state, or they effectively withdrew by just not writing any new policies. So that left us with a handful of market left, and a market that was financially stressed. And we're seeing the results of that right now. You know, we've got the highest premiums in the country for property. A few companies that are willing to write, and the further south you go, options run out to nothing. You know, it's Louisiana Citizens. Louisiana Citizens right now has about 130,000 policies in it. It's not the most it's ever had, but it's certainly more than we would like it to have. And so when I became commissioner, I became commissioner-elect August 15th of 2023, sworn in January 8th. But when I became commissioner in August, it's interesting, the industry will actually return your phone calls when they know you're going to be the next commissioner. And I use that. Look, we started meeting with industry. We started meeting with insurance companies. We started meeting with claims adjusters. We started meeting with real estate folks. We started meeting with attorneys, talking about the crisis that our state was facing and acknowledging that the crisis today is driving families out of their homes and communities. It's driving businesses out of our state. And we got together and we said, we need to agree on what the issues are, and we need to try and agree on what some of the solutions could be. And on the property side, we were fairly successful with that. We got the people in the room, if you will. And when we started our regular session in, I always forget the month because it started really in January and ran all the way through June, but regular session in March, we had a package of bills. And it had been developed over several months, many months. And we hit the ground running. And we had the buy-in of the governor, we had the buy-in of the legislative leadership, and we had the buy-in of legislators. Are there any in this room? Or did they already go upstairs to the bar? None? Had their support. They knew what had to be done. And let me tell you, in the time frame of legislative process, it was lightning speed. We had the bills heard early in committees, got them out of the committees, cross floors, cross chambers, heard in those committees, voted on the floors, and on the governor's desk on property reform. And the governor had a bill signing ceremony the first week in May. And we got that done, and we raised the flag and waved the flag to the industry. Say, look, we're paying attention. We've done what you said needs to be done. We've addressed a lot of the core issues that Louisiana has. Because look, and if you've heard me speak once, then you've heard this comment. Insurance companies do not have to do business in the state of Louisiana. They get to choose where they put their capital at risk. And if they want to write property and they want it to be exposed to hurricanes, there's really 5 states they get to pick, right? You've got Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. And Louisiana was not an attractive state. Our regulatory environment was not good. Our legal environment, we're one of, a judicial hellhole. I think every year they've ever had that list, came up with it. And our risk, our building codes, we need to do a better job. If you compare Louisiana to the other states, we've got to step up and do more on that. But, we addressed what we could. We addressed the regulatory environment. The department, my co-workers, all 222 of them, we go to work every day dedicated to trying to improve the insurance industry, the insurance marketplace in Louisiana, from the things that we do, the seats that we sit in. And we are having an impact. I get feedback all the time from insurance companies. I get feedback from agents. I get feedback from adjusters, people that deal with the Department of Insurance that, hey, I've noticed a difference when I call the department. The person on the other end of the line, a little bit different, pep in their step. That's my phrase, not theirs. But they're saying we notice a difference. But we do. We show up every day trying to help you. But look, admit it. If we can make insurance more affordable, that helps us too, and directly. So, but we're there to try and help. So from a regulatory standpoint, we've made a lot of changes, and then from a legal standpoint, the same thing. We passed some meaningful reform when it comes to property, and the markets are responding. The reinsurance markets, and I was over there, whatever last month was, and they're telling us the changes that Louisiana has made is making a difference. You are restoring confidence back in the state. You are restoring confidence for us to come back and put our capital at risk. And it is directly happening. There are companies that are getting more aggregate, more capacity. There are new companies that are filing applications with the department to come and write property in the state of Louisiana. It's a few, it's not a lot, and that is not a victory. And we're not saying it's a victory. We're not waving the flag and going home or letting our foot off the gas. We're going to continue to push and push and push. I don't want one or two or three. I want 20, 15, 25. That's how many new companies we need to have. We need to fill that void that was left. But we are on the path. That is the good news. We are on the path, the right path. And I think that, I get asked all the time, when am I going to get a quote from a new company? How fast is this going to happen? And I think we could look at Florida and have a reasonable expectation of what Florida did. They had a Hurricane Ian, 2021, one hurricane. They had 3 special sessions to deal with their crisis. And over those 3 special sessions, over a 2-year period, they passed a bunch of meaningful property reform. They have companies coming back to Florida. They have capacity coming back. Over $1 billion of new money is back in Florida. $1 billion to us would be unimaginable. To Florida, they're a bigger market, but it's helping. And as of today, they have now 24 companies that have, for the first time in years, Florida was like us. They kept seeing these rate increases up and up, year after year after year. And for the first time in years, they now have 24 companies that have taken no increase. So people are seeing their insurance premiums, their renewals, flat. Raise your hand if you'd like to just see flat, right? But more importantly, they've got a dozen companies, 12, are taking rate decreases. And this is in what is the meteorologists are claiming, the most active hurricane season that, that they were forecasting. And look, it still could be, right? We've still got a long way to go to get out of the season. But these companies are taking those actions in what was forecast to be a very active hurricane season. So the reform does work. It took 18, 24 months for those to burn in. And I think Louisiana, that's what we should expect. But look, our clock didn't start back when Florida did their reforms. Our clock starts now. But we are starting to see the companies come back in. So we've made some good progress there. Where we haven't is on the legal front, on auto reform. And in Louisiana, we've talked about property for a while, so let's talk about auto. We've got the highest personal auto premiums in the country. We're number 1. We're the most expensive. It costs more to insure a car in Louisiana than it does in New York or California. Commercial auto is the same. And a lot of times I hear people talk about commercial auto and they're like, the big trucks running up and down the roads. Yeah, that is commercial auto. But if you own a business and you have a vehicle in your business, commercial auto. The plumbers that we see running the roads, the air conditioning guys, heating and air AC guys, that's commercial trucking. All these service industries that keep all these plants and facilities and everything else running, commercial auto, the highest in the country. And that's been that way for years. And so, again, we had a package of bills We didn't have the same effort that was put in on the property side. We weren't able to get all the people in the same room and agree what the issues were and what some potential solutions could be. But we still ran with a package of bills. And we got some. We had direct action. Louisiana was one of, I think at the time, prior to this session, we were one of 4 states that had direct action. We're now with the majority. And Georgia is either just passed or passed it during their legislative session, or they're about to pass it. And so they won't be, so there'll be 2 direct action states left. We changed the prescription, which is the amount of time that you can litigate against a company or against an individual or a company. We increased it by a year. It wasn't ideal, but it was part of a trade-off. By itself, it's bad, but if collectively we can get all the other reform done that we need to, it's probably not a bad idea. But right now, it was one of a few bills that got passed. The one you always hear about a lot is collateral source. And, and we can get into collateral source a little bit in the Q&A if you'd like to. But we had a bill, got out of the House, got out of the Senate, vetoed by the governor. I haven't had a chance to talk to the governor about it and see exactly what his issues are with that bill, but I will. And we'll regroup, and we will come up with a new game plan, and we will get him on board, and then we'll move forward, and we'll bring meaningful reform to Louisiana so that we can expect the same results that we anticipate in property to start to happen on the auto side. Because listen, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you, I do not see any justification for you and I to pay the highest auto rates in this country. I don't. I get to see the data. You can see the data. It's not secret. But there is no justification for Louisianans to pay the highest premiums in the country for their auto. Yes, I'd say, maybe our roads aren't as good as Texas, but that doesn't drive the results. That's not what's driving it. The good news is that the legislature they've got the willpower to take on this issue. And we've now had 2 months back to back where we've had a legislative hearing. You have, for the first time ever, 2 months ago, House and Insurance Committees, House Civil Law, and Senate Judiciary A all met together. 4 committees, 1 hearing room. I think it's 52 members. 4 chairmen in 1 room. And you involved with the legislative process, you know how difficult that could be. But they started the conversation. It was a 9.5-hour hearing, maybe 10-hour hearing. But we started the conversation. From that was born the next hearing. And so you had those groups break out and go back to their own, respective hearing, their own committees. And we're talking about the cost drivers. Why do insurance companies pay as much as they do in claims? Why do they charge as much as they do in premiums? So we're having those conversations, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. I am not going to stop. I'm not going to rest until we do. We're having another hearing September 6th. I would encourage you to participate. We've got another hearing in October. I don't know if there's one in November scheduled yet. There is one in November. So we're going to continue to have these. But the intent is to what we did on property, let's do it for auto. Let's get all the players, all the stakeholders to agree on what the issues are, what the drivers are, the cost drivers. And then let's talk about what the solutions are and bring a legislative solution to that. I'm publicly asking and calling and saying we need to have a special session to address additional insurance reform. We cannot let it just be part of this next session, which is a fiscal session. This is a serious enough crisis that we need to have all focus on it. And so if you happen to know a legislator's phone number or email, tell them that you asking them to support a special session. If you know the governor's phone, email, please let him know that you're asking him to support a special session because we need it. We cannot just take these small steps and hope to get anywhere right now. So we're making progress there. And, it's in the guise of economic development. And like I said earlier, when you're the highest auto rates in the country, when you're the highest homeowners property rates in the country, that means if you move from Louisiana to Texas, or if you move from Louisiana to New York, your insurance goes down. You know, it's also the inverse. If you're wanting to attract people to come to Louisiana, if you're trying to get them to move from Dallas, or if you want them to come from Little Rock, or if you want them to come from Nashville, and you say, hey, come to Lake Charles, it's great. We've got business, we've got industry, we've got all this stuff, come on back. Oh, but guess what? Your auto's going to double, and your homeowner's going to triple. So it makes economic development hard, really hard. You know, and look, the governor and the legislators are working their tails off on doing educational reform, criminal justice reform, tax reform is going to come up next session, looking at the infrastructure, revamping LED, all these things that need to be done, and they're going to be good. But, you know, like I've said before, that and I'm looking at the bridge over there, you know, build a new bridge, great. Pave all the roads, make them as smooth as whatever you want them to be. But if you can't afford to drive the vehicle over that bridge or down that road, what good are we doing? So we've got to address the insurance crisis. It is vital. Insurance is vital to our state economy, and that's not a secret. It's every state's economy. But when we look at all these southern states, our peer states, if you will, and we talk about, you know, I think it's 7 states, southern states that are our peers, we're the only one that lost population over the last 10 or 15 years. You know, we need to reverse that. And again, the good news is the state is taking steps to change some of those things. Education, taxation, infrastructure. But we got to make sure insurance is a part of that. It is vital. So like I said, you can make all those other changes, but if the people can't afford to live here, from an insurance perspective, you know, we're kind of spinning our wheels a little bit. So on that real happy note, but let me tell you the good news. You know, Louisiana is so blessed. We have natural resources, and again, what a great view to look out and see some of those at work. But you know, we have natural resources from the top of the state to the bottom, from east to west. Our state is blessed, whether it's agriculture, you know, we've got the oil and gas revenue, we've got a great infrastructure to move all that stuff around. Even though we like to gripe about our roads, we've got great rail, we've got great river systems and canals. We can move stuff. You know, there's a reason that all this infrastructure and all these businesses are here. So we've got great resources. We've got great people. They like to work hard. They like to play hard too. They like to eat. But we've got great people. And as a business, our state is great. We've got a good workforce. So we've got a lot of great natural talents and abilities. But is my core belief that if we don't fix this insurance issue, that just makes it harder and harder and harder for us to get ahead. And I know there's a local kind of analogy going on that, you know, when you're behind, you got to run faster to catch up. And you do. But when you're behind in insurance, you can't just take a step and then another step. You've got to take big, bold leaps, because every year, except for Texas, all these other state legislators are meeting annually. And guess what? They're constantly tweaking. They're constantly making their insurance marketplace better. Georgia is tackling tort reform this year. And if you look at the makeup of their leadership in their House and their Senate, they're going to get it. They're going to become a more attractive state for companies that want to write auto. So we're competing against that. So we have got to it's not just keep up, we got to get ahead. And to do that, it's not step by step by step, it's leap by leap by leap. And that's what we're asking the legislators to do, that's what we're asking our state leadership to do, that's what I'm asking you to do. And again, if you were a legislator, I apologize, you've already heard this thing, but this is the thing, I need your help. I need you to reach out. I need you to make your voice heard. Write your newspaper. Call your radio program. Do television interviews. Let people know how painful the insurance crisis is to you as an individual, to you as a business. Because, you know, like I said, you know, a couple of weeks ago, this is my 3rd week being in Lake Charles, back to back, and I'm actually coming back tomorrow to speak to another group. But You know, when you cross that magic line 30 miles west of here, 35 miles west of here, your insurance rates drop. There's the social media, there's a guy in DeRidder who's got a trucking company, and he recently posted that in DeRidder, he got to the point where he was paying $5,000 a month for his commercial auto on trucking. He said, I can't do this anymore. My business model doesn't support it. He moved across the state line into Texas. I think he's in Jasper. $1,500 a month. It's real dollars, real money. That's another employee, probably another truck. You know, that's money you can help to expand your business. And again, Louisiana is a great place. Don't get me wrong, you know. But that's what we're competing against. That's the headwinds that we're facing. And so that's why it's vital that you make the choices that you're having to make is, again, whether you're an individual or a business owner, the things that you're being faced with and having to consider. Make your voice known and heard so that we can get the change done that we need to desperately at the Capitol. And like I said, I love my state. It's a great state. It's going to be an even better state because of all these changes taking place. We just need to make sure that we're doing everything we can from an insurance perspective. And so I said I would take some questions, and I think you've got some cards. And as we go through that, even if you didn't ask a question, if there's something that I didn't touch on, I'd be happy to do that. Oh, you're going to make me pull my glasses out. All right, here we go. No pictures. All right, in your opinion, what state is a model for Louisiana to make insurance more affordable? There is no one specific state. That's just it. You know, what we're doing, we're looking at different states, and we're trying to, and it's kind of hard to pick and choose because if you know, I hear no fault. Louisiana should just go to no fault, that fixes everything. Well, we can't just do just no fault. There's a whole lot of other laws that touch that you have to change. And so what we are trying to do is compare our Louisiana to states that have a similar sized economy and population. And then we can sit there and look and say, okay, what does that state, you know, where are they on the ranking? Look, and I can tell you right now, I'll just tell you, when we have these sessions, Maine gets thrown out all the time. You know, we should just do what Maine does. And I'm not going to say which side says we should do that, but in Maine they have 13-year prescription period. You can wait up to like 13 years to litigate against somebody. So there's a lot of people who think that's a good model. But Maine has really good rates. And I'll tell you this. 2 weeks ago, I was at the NAIC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners summer conference. And it's alphabetical. So guess which commissioner I get to sit next to on my left? So I asked the commissioner from Maine, I said, hey, your state is always brought up in these legislative hearings we're having about having affordable insurance. I said, what do you attribute that to? He said, we're a rural state. That's the driver, and he's accurate. That's what it is. They're a rural state. They just don't have a lot of accidents. They don't have the claims we do. This question, home insurance. How many companies are approved and currently writing homeowners insurance policies in Louisiana? You can verify this information on our website. We have, I want to say it's right around 100 insurance companies are licensed and have some premium dollar on the books. Doesn't mean that they're actively writing. I think the top 10 writers in our state represent somewhere around 70% of all policies. I think that's what the number is. 77%. I think it's 70, maybe even higher than that. But the top 10 companies and the top 2 are about 30%. So we don't have a competitive market when it comes. That's what we've got to get back to. That's why we need to attract those companies to come back. That's what you want. You don't want just the 1 or 2 companies. You know, you want, when you go get a renewal from your agent, you want 5, 7, 10. That's what we need to get back to. So we've got about 100 licensed, but like I said, the ones actively, the top, and if you go to our website, there is a market share, and you can pull it up, and it shows you by line what the company's market share is. Okay, what rate of uninsured drivers do we have compared to other states? So Yeah, and I hear this one a lot, and actually we had a conversation about this earlier today. In Louisiana, we have the national average of uninsured drivers, cars that do not have insurance, vehicles that have no insurance on them, is around 11.4% is the number is the number I remember in my head. The national average is 12.7%. So we're actually about a point below the national average for uninsured drivers. So I don't think that's the issue. In Louisiana, what our issue is underinsured drivers. About 42, 43% of cars on the road carry minimum limits. And minimum limits will not repair pretty much any vehicle on the road now. $15,000 for physical damage doesn't pay for a lot. Maybe that may be your front bumper and your back bumper, right? I mean, because cars are getting more expensive. There's more technology in them. You've heard this before. The $100 bumper's now a $1,500 bumper with all the sensors and cameras and whatnot. So $15,000 physical damage limit does not get you a lot of protection. And then today we're having a conversation. They say, well, you just need to raise the minimum limits. That would fix everything. Well, one, I can't do that. The legislature has to. But two, if you raise the minimum limits in an environment where we're already the most expensive, then you see that uninsured motorist number go up. And so it's my belief that as we work and improve the auto market and it becomes more affordable, people will buy more protection. Most people want to buy enough protection to cover their vehicle. And so people will once we make it more affordable. What is being done to address increases in flood insurance with the NFIP? Didn't y'all have FEMA here? Did y'all not ask this question? It wasn't answered? That's the federal government. No, look, that is a huge, huge issue. It is next to homeowners and auto, flood is the big issue. And while the Department of Insurance does not regulate the NFIP, we work with the congressional delegation. I've had conversations with if not every congressional delegation member directly, at least their staff. And I'm thinking of just two people in particular that I hadn't had a chance to get with. But in trying to advocate and let them know that whatever they see that I can do to help benefit, I want to. I mean, I go to D.C., nobody cares. But I can assure you that your congressional delegation is probably, heck, we know it's the strongest it's ever been. We've got the Speaker of the House, and we've got the Majority Leader from Louisiana. And so if any congressional delegation could get anything done, it would be this one. And I know they fight, and they're having fights with FEMA on trying to get to how do they determine rates. Risk rating 2.0 is a dismal failure. It gets back to just like auto and everything else. If you can't afford the product, then what good are we really doing? And I know those conversations are taking place. Louisiana has sued FEMA. They're trying to get the formula. That's going to be a long, drawn-out battle. But again, I don't have anything to do with that. What I am trying to focus on is the private flood market. We're trying to promote private flood so that you have an option other than the NFIP. There are a couple of private flood riders in Louisiana that have come to Louisiana. But we're also working with those companies to let them know what communities are doing from a risk mitigation standpoint. And the two that always come to mind are down in Lafourche and Terrebonne Parish. Years ago, they passed a millage. They taxed themselves. They built their own levees. They said, we can't wait for the federal government. We're going to do it ourselves. And they did. And after Hurricane Ida, Delta and Zeta and Ida, their communities didn't flood. The levees worked. And so I'm trying to help make sure that the insurance companies that write private flood know that, so those communities can get proper credit. And as other communities do things like that, flood mitigation, we want to be, and we will be, a partner so that the industry knows what's taking place, so that communities get the full credit that they can. Is there a plan to reduce or eliminate the penalty of not being able to afford auto insurance imposed by Louisiana drivers by the DMV? Well, good question. I don't know. Look, you got to carry insurance. You have to. that would be a legislative question. They would have to decide if they wanted to allow individuals to legally drive without insurance. I think there's one state, and please don't ask me what the state is, but there is one state that allows that. I think in exchange for not carrying insurance policy, you may have to carry a bond. You may have to have a bond or something in place like that. But look, all the other states do it. If we can fix insurance, and we will, then that wouldn't be an issue. People would be able to afford the insurance. Let's see. Please address the availability of health insurance that is unavoidable. Available. Health insurance is again, that's one of those that we see those costs go up year after year after year. I can tell you that from my experience, and look, I was a property and casualty guy. As the mayor said, I grew up in this industry. I spent 20 plus years in it. Mine was all on the property and the casualty. The life and health side, I didn't spend a lot of time over there. But in Louisiana, obviously, we're dominated by one primary carrier in the health space, and then we've got some smaller, some bigger companies, but smaller market share participating. It's one that we're addressing. Health insurance cost just continues to climb. As I'm learning more and more about this, what I'm being told is that the cost of the pharmaceutical cost is the big driver. It's not so much the surgeries that we get or the doctor's fees that are being charged, but it's the prescriptions. And look, all these pills, help you live longer and healthier and all that, and they're good. But the pharmaceuticals are driving the cost of those up. And so you may have seen Arkansas 2 weeks ago had litigated against, and they just fined some of the PBMs in Arkansas. I think it was $1.5 billion for improper pricing. You've got some other states that are looking at that. Louisiana, we're actually having conversations and looking to see, what our next steps need to be to make sure that we're trying to rein in those costs. Because if the less costs they pay out on that, then obviously the less they have to charge us from a premium standpoint. If someone's having a problem with their insurance company for property and auto, should they call your office for direction? Yes. Look, we have a very well-staffed, well-run complaint department. And maybe, I don't want to say it's because we get a lot of them, but we have a well-run group. Last year, I want to say, was it 7,000, Ron, does that sound right? About 7,000 calls we got from people. And look, you can call and you can complain, it's your right, about anything you want. But if you call and complain about premiums, no, we're not going to be able to help get it lower. But look, there are legitimate complaints that come in all the time that people say, hey, I've called my insurance company, they hadn't called back. Sometimes unfortunately, sometimes bad things just fall through the cracks sometimes. I'm not saying that it's justifiable, but there are times that people just don't feel that they got treated right. We can pick up the phone, we can insert ourselves in the process. We can't adjust your claim, we can't tell them to pay you more money, we can't tell them to lower your premium, but we can get the companies to take sometimes another look and just look at the file again, or maybe reassign it within their department. So you can go to ldi.la.gov, just Google Louisiana Department of Insurance, it's easy to find. There's a tab where you can click to file a complaint. It's very easy. You can also call. And like I said, we've got a call center there. I've manned the phone myself and taken the phone calls that come in. And it's assigned. I want you to know this, it does not just go into a file. It's assigned to a live person. They reach out to the insurance company or whoever you've got the complaint with, and then they report back to you and close the loop. So it doesn't just go away unless I get the call. Then sometimes I have a problem with the system. But so if Tim's on the line, make sure you get somebody else. Let's see. For those installing fortified roofs, is there a law in place that ensures they receive a discount on their insurance premium? Who's enforcing that? Look, and I didn't talk a lot about the fortified roof program, and I need to, and whoever asked that question, thank you for bringing that up. 2 years ago, the legislature passed a law that created the Louisiana Fortified Roof Program. They modeled it after Alabama. Alabama's had their program up and running for over 10 years. So the Louisiana Fortified Roof Program, right now there's a grant that you can apply for. The legislature gave the Department of Insurance $30 million last year. Grants are up to $10,000. It doesn't go to you, it goes to your roofer once you put the fortified roof on. But when you become an applicant, you then have an inspection of your home done. They determine whether your house can receive a fortified roof. And if it is determined, then you put the fortified roof on. Once it's on, then the department will remit the whatever up to $10,000 directly to the roofer. You get a certificate from your roofer. You take that to your insurance company, and they have to give you a discount. They all have filed rates with the Department of Insurance. Some are bigger than others. Some are less than others. And I would say if you're interested in putting a fortified roof on, call your agent, or if you're with a direct company, go to the company and ask them, if I put a fortified roof on, what's my discount? The good news is you get that discount, not just once, every year. And I think at year 5, you have to recertify your roof to make sure it's still in good shape. But you get that discount every single year. And if you don't want to go through the grant program, and we've actually been allocated another $15 million this year, there'll be another round of grants coming out. So we'll be opening that up, I think, next month. But if you choose to put a fortified roof on yourself, or if you're in the process of, you're getting ready to build a new home, and you want to put a fortified roof on, do it. Because you can get up to a $5,000 tax deduction. And we're going to ask the legislature next year to increase that to $10,000 so that it at least matches what a grant recipient can receive. And I'll tell you, Alabama, it has worked wonders over there. They have, like I said, their program, I think it's been in existence 12 years now. They took 2 years to design their program. When they said we're going to do a program, they took 2 years to design it. And they now have over 50,000 fortified roofs in Alabama. 6,500 of those came from the grant program. The balance came from people choosing to put a fortified roof on, or in the 2 counties that touch the Gulf of Mexico, I think it's Montgomery and whatever the other county's called, it's a requirement. There's a building requirement to put a fortified roof on there. And when Hurricane Sally hit Alabama 4 years ago, I think it was 3 years, whenever it was, 17,000 fortified roofs were impacted. Less than 3% had a claim. So fortified roofs work. Your shingles stay on, your contents stay dry, you get back in your house faster, you recover faster, your community recovers faster. It's good for everybody. And so, one of the things that we're going to ask the legislature to do, a couple of things. Next year, we're going to ask them to change the funding source so it's actually coming from the industry, not from you, the taxpayers, because right now, you, the taxpayers, are funding the current fortified program. And we're taking this off the Alabama model. Alabama gets their funding from the industry. So we want to change that so the industry's funding these roofs if you're doing the grant. We're going to ask them to increase that, but we're also going to ask that we're going to ask to have more stringent building codes. We need, and we're talking about resiliency here, right? We need more resilient properties. And a surefire way to build a better structure that is good for you is a fortified roof. And so we're going to ask the legislature to help us tackle that and require fortified roofs, and we don't know exactly what that footprint's going to look like, but some coastal exposure there. And then, what was that? Is there a way to leverage the lowering of property coverage against the lucrativeness of motor vehicle coverage for companies that seek both? Let's see if I can understand that. Is there a way to leverage the lowering of property? Look, if you bundle, that's the answer to that. A lot of companies say if you've got your homeowners with us, if you add your auto, we'll give you a discount. That works. There are some companies that are now, and I just heard this. Well, I sat with one of the companies that's doing this, but there are companies now that are saying if they write your homeowners, they also want to write your flood. And again, that's through the Write Your Own NFIP. It's still the federal program, but they have a way of facilitating that. So Companies are out there to bundle, but I'll tell you this, the best thing that you can do to help combat the current premium structure, shop your insurance. Shop it, shop it, shop it. I know some agents, I'm not picking on you, but some agents, don't want you to, and I get it, they're in business too. And look, not all agents have access to all insurance companies, right? So if your current agent doesn't have a quote that is affordable to you, you may have to change agents sometime. And that's not a popular conversation to have in front of agents, but the good agents understand that. And I can tell you, the best thing you can do is shop your insurance, shop your insurance, shop your insurance. There's not a lot of competition, I acknowledge, but there is some out there, and you need to go and turn over every stone, because I'll tell you, I did a town hall at Houma last week, about 150, 200 people in the room, and there were a surprising number of people that said, I'm not going with insurance this year on my own. I paid my mortgage, I don't have to buy insurance, and I can't afford insurance. But this is a very vulnerable population. And typically, your retirees, elderly, they're on fixed income, and a lot of people, that's their biggest asset. And it's going unprotected. And that we, as a state, we got to make sure we try and help protect those people. And the way I can do it is to help create a more competitive marketplace so that people have choice. So with that, unless there's no other questions, I know we're getting a couple of minutes before. So yes, sir. One more question. You can read it.
What are the top 3 drivers of the cost for auto in your opinion? And how does that mix in with work reform and maybe some of the personal injury acts that are affecting some of these decisions?
All right, so top 3 drivers of auto insurance. Look, let's go over the stats real quick. So in Louisiana, I said we're slightly above the national average for auto accidents that occur. So for every 100,000 policies, whatever your metric is, I think the national average is somewhere around 36% of policies get involved in an accident. Somewhere around there. The Louisiana average is somewhere around 46. So we're not dramatically higher that would necessitate or justify having the highest auto rates in the country. So we're just a little bit above the national average. Where we become an outlier is when we do get in an accident, we're twice the national average to have bodily injury claim. Good. For some reason, when we get in a wreck, we get hurt. Twice the national average. I've been heard that we're real soft. But I can tell you, people in Southwest Louisiana are about as hardy as you can get, right? Y'all have experienced it all. So I don't buy into that we're softer and we get injured easier. But on top of the twice the national average for bodily injury, we litigate 2.3 times the national average. Yep. So we file bodily injury and we lawyer up, right? And look, the lawyers are part of that. You can't file a lawsuit without a lawyer, right? You also can't file for damages without a bill. And so this process that I was talking about where the legislature's meeting and they're going through all this, that's what we're looking at, the cost drivers. Frequency, that starts it. But just because you have an auto accident doesn't mean that you have a bodily injury, right? So we're looking at the cost drivers, the frequency, and then when we do have a claim, litigation, bodily injury. Phys damage is too. That's one I hear. The opposition likes to say, well, cars are more expensive to repair, but I don't have any hard data that shows a Ford F-150 costs more to repair in Lake Charles than it does in Beaumont. I mean, and if you really look at the numbers, we're about the average. We're about $100 above the average right now. So that's not a driver. It's not the fifth down. So we're looking at those things, and because again, and I've said this before, and I'm going to continue to say, we're going to expose. We want transparency on all this. You're paying the highest auto rates in the country. You deserve to know where that premium's going. And if the insurance companies are the ones, if they're the big bad greedy insurance companies taking it all, we're going to expose that. We're going to put transparency on it. If it's the attorneys, we're going to expose that. If it's the doctors, we're going to expose that. If it's the hospital, whomever it is, if it's the claims adjusters, we're gonna expose it because you need to know where it's going and then we gotta fix it so that we can all afford insurance again. Yes, sir, I'll let you.
That's I hear the term bad faith. We've all heard it through our processing the insurance type.
Yep.
Now hear about it through our property insurance. That's addressing bad faith claims.
No, the collateral source is not addressing bad faith. The collateral source is addressing phantom damages. You get a bill for $1,000 to repair a broken hand,
Right.
but because you had negotiated rates, the doctor only got $100. But if you litigate for the $1,000,
Right.
and if you win, you get the $1,000. Well, nobody was ever out the $1,000. They were only out the $100. And so insurance, the core principle is to make you whole, not make you better. And if you're made better, somebody pays for that. So that's it. The bad faith is a different issue.
Yep.
So, look, I know I'm holding y'all back from drinks, and I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for staying and paying attention, for not going to sleep on me with insurance. But listen, I love this state. It's a great state. So please don't let if I get negative, it's just because we're trying to address the issues. But I'm telling you, the best days are for Louisiana. So God bless you, and God bless the great state of Louisiana. 100,000 policies, whatever your metric is. I think the national average is somewhere around 36% of policies get involved in an accident. Somewhere around there. The Louisiana average is somewhere around 46. So we're not dramatically higher that would necessitate or justify having the highest auto rates in the country. So we're just a little bit above the national average. Where we become an outlier is when we do get in an accident, we're twice the national average to have bodily injury claim.
Good.
For some reason, when we get in a wreck, we get hurt. You know, twice the national average. You know, I've been heard that we're real soft. You know? But I can tell you, people in Southwest Louisiana are about as hardy as you can get, right? Y'all have experienced it all. So I don't buy into that we're softer and we get injured easier. But on top of the twice the national average for bodily injury, we litigate 2.3 times the national average.
Yep.
So we file bodily injury and we lawyer up, right? And look, the lawyers are part of that. You can't file a lawsuit without a lawyer, right? You also can't file for damages without a bill. And so this process that I was talking about where the legislature's meeting and they're going through all this, that's what we're looking at, the cost drivers. Frequency, that starts it, but just because you have an auto accident doesn't mean that you have a bodily injury, right? So we're looking at the cost drivers, the frequency, and then when we do have a claim, litigation, bodily injury. Phys damage is too. That's one I hear, the opposition likes to say, well, cars are more expensive to repair. But I don't have any hard data that shows a Ford F-150 costs more to repair in Lake Charles than it does in Beaumont. I mean, and if you really look at the numbers, we're about the average, we're about $100 above the average right now. So that's not a driver. It's not the fifth down. So we're looking at those things. And because again, and I've said this before, and I'm going to continue to say, we're going to expose, we want transparency on all this. You're paying the highest auto rates in the country. You deserve to know where that premium's going. And if the insurance companies are the ones, if they're the big bad greedy insurance companies taking it all, we're going to expose that. We're going to put transparency on it. If it's the attorneys, we're going to expose that. If it's the doctors, we're going to expose that. If it's the hospital, whomever it is, if it's the claims adjusters, we're going to expose it because you need to know where it's going and then we got to fix it so that we can all afford insurance again. Yes, sir, I'll let you.
That's I hear the term bad faith. We've all heard it through our processing the insurance type.
Yep.
Now hear about it through our property insurance. That's addressing bad faith claims.
No, the collateral source is not addressing bad faith. The collateral source is addressing phantom damages. You get a bill for $1,000 to repair a broken hand,
Right.
but because you had negotiated rates, the doctor only got $100. But if you litigate you litigate for the 1,000, and if you win, you get the 1,000. Well, nobody was ever out the 1,000. They were only out the 100. And so insurance, the core principle is to make you whole, not make you better. And if you're made better, somebody pays for that. So the bad faith is a different issue.
Yep.
So, look, I know I'm holding y'all back from drinks, and I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for staying and paying attention, for not going to sleep on me with insurance. But listen, I love this state. It's a great state. So please don't let if I get negative, it's just because we're trying to address the issues. But I'm telling you, the best days are before Louisiana. So God bless you, and God bless the great state of Louisiana.